And now, podcasting from the sun-scorched desert Southwest, weighing in at a combined total of 340 pounds, Brad Winchester, Tyler McDowell-Blanken, are Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I'm Brad Winchester, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell-Blanken. And Tyler, we have a very special guest today.
We do. We're a trio today. We've gone Hollywood, Brad. We are excited and honored to welcome the one and only Tessa Lawlor to GI. Tessa is a television producer, best known for her work on ABC's 2020, Discovery's Street Outlaws, HGTV's Rico to the Rescue, and much, much more. Tessa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're
doing
so
well,
good.
Man. Doing well, yeah. Well.
We're so excited to have you on.
I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we'll go ahead and roll right into our first question, Tessa. You started in the industry as an actress before transitioning to a role behind the camera as a producer. My understanding is that the typical day in the life of a producer involves making calls, scheduling interviews, locking down filming locations, ensuring your crew is supported, and I'm sure there's more that I didn't mention. 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an accurate description of how your work looks now in 2024? And what's your favorite aspect of what you do?
I would say absolutely, as a producer, that you summed it up pretty well. They manage talent as well. So a lot of schedules, a lot of talent, locations. I would say you summed it up really well. My favorite aspect is having a hand in the creative side. Like getting to pick like where the show is going, like which direction you want it to go in, interacting directly with talent.
Wow.
That sounds
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So Tyler and I are in the education industry. I know we met at school. We have staff meetings. We have mandatory video trainings. We have a lot of things that are around the stuff we love to do. Is there a most monotonous part of the job that you're like, today's the day I got to do that paperwork, or I have to do that one thing, or we have our annual, we have to go over what legal agreements we have kinds of meetings that you're like, all right, this is a part of it. I'm going to do it, but I'm not in love with doing it.
Absolutely. So I jump back and forth between producing and production managing. So specifically when I'm managing, office days, balancing my petty cash and going through receipts. That's not fun. I don't look forward to that.
Are those skills that you had to, did you know that you were going to have to do like the diet accountant job when you got into it? And did you do any prep work for that to try to prepare you for that? Because I can imagine there's so many different aspects of the job that you feel like you were an expert in 12 different areas.
Well, I definitely learned as I went. As I moved up in the industry, I had my previous bosses teach me that stuff as well. And then just some of it comes naturally.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Wow. I remember anything dealing with cash, money, spreadsheets, I actively avoided and continue to avoid. Tessa, I was a club sponsor back when Brad and I worked together. Again, speaking of education and teaching, when it involved like a credit card, like a P card and receipts and tracking, it's not my jam. So I think we share that in common. But speaking of challenges, Tessa, tell us about the biggest challenge facing today's production industry.
AI. I know that was a big part of the strike that just recently happened. Is there's a lot of studios that want to replace background actors with AI images. So that would put a lot of people out of jobs.
Yeah,
Wow.
I saw a few things pop up recently, and now we have people are using it for nefarious things as well. The Taylor Swift lawsuit and or at least the threat of the lawsuit and things like that. It's kind of startling, and I know sometimes people lean into it. There was a show that recently used it as their intro, and they did AI on purpose to make it feel otherworldly, but it's also you couldn't have a creative type do the otherworldly thing, and then you gave the job to a computer, and I imagine it's very complicated trying to get those things done.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know, and I kind of talked about this in the production meeting. What are some odd jobs or some other jobs along the way that you've learned from that was unexpected? That for me, for example, I worked at Walmart for a long time, and I find that working at a retail industry made me appreciate working with a completely different group of people and understanding people's lives and backgrounds. I've also worked at a few other places that did not give me quite that insight, but made me realize, yeah, I never want to do that again. I'm going to go back to school and get into a classroom.
I had the opportunity to work for a pretty big resort many years ago before I went full-time in the film industry. And to this day, like when people find out in the film industry that I had worked for them, they're like, oh, wow, like I know that name. I know like the skills that you had to learn with them. And same thing, like I got to meet a whole bunch of different people from different backgrounds and different ways of life. So that has definitely transitioned well into my life.
Do you feel like your personality and what you do now, especially with how you can disclose information and keep it secret, do you find that it makes you really more measured with your conversations with other people, or do you have you had to adapt to that in any way, or is it just sort of like I just don't say what I think might get me in trouble or my production in trouble or anything like that? Because I feel like I would be terrible in this job because I would just say whatever, like, oh yeah, I'm totally doing this right now. I guess what happened at work today with so-and-so. I know that's something that I would end up doing.
Yes and no. I like it's easy. You can talk about it with your coworkers, especially because you've all signed the same NDA. So it's easy to just like text them, talk to them about something that you can't tell anybody else. But like I know family gatherings, my family will ask me like, "Hey, how's work?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's good." That's it. It's good. Like,
maybe an emoji, maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Thank you.
Oh my God. And then Tessa, if we could just rewind for a moment. So how was that leap for you when you decided that you wanted to make this your full-time work? Were there, this may be a silly question, but were there nerves? Did you have sort of people around you affirming you and giving you that confidence to do it? Or did you just have your mindset that this is going to happen? I don't know when it's going to happen, but that this is going to be my path and I'm going to make art my career.
Yeah, it was actually COVID. COVID happened and I had decided like there was still stuff being filmed. And I was like, okay, well, I quit my day job and just went online, started doing a bunch of research and looking up where I can apply for like starting positions as like a production assistant and quickly worked my way up from there. But yeah, it was definitely terrifying, especially during that time of period. Not knowing if I was going to have a paycheck the next week or not. And then as far as family goes, I love my family, but not all of them were very supportive of it in the beginning at all.
Really? Tell us about that. As much as you care to disclose, we don't want to put anybody on blast. Any family.
Some of them called me crazy. They were like, "There's no way," especially during COVID. They're like, "I don't know how you're going to be able to do this, but good luck." And then they've definitely, to this day, they were like, you know what, you've taken a lot of risks, but you've made it work for you, and it's happened. They're like, good for you. Like, I don't know how you do it, but
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
I just saw I think it was an interview with Bryan Cranston where he was talking about making it in the industry, and he's like, the key ingredient that I think people are missing, it's not the hard work, it's not the talent, it's not all of that, it's luck. It's getting into the right spot, the right situation, and having it be that perfect storm to sort of, because there's talent all over the place. At least on the acting side, he talked about there's just talent everywhere. It's finding that right spot and that right situation. Do you feel like, because I feel like just based on what I know about you and what you've been doing, that it's definitely as much a hard work thing and an effort, dedication thing, especially for what you do, than it is a luck thing. But do you feel like at any point you were like, wow, I really got lucky with this? because to me, it feels like all of this has been earned.
Mm-hmm. It is. I do think it actually is a little bit of luck. I think back, there is like one job in specific that I turned down. I want to say a little over a year ago, and I think like, where would my life be now if I had taken that? And I would not be where I'm at now, and I know that for a fact. But it is like a lot of luck and a lot of meeting the right people. It is a huge network industry, so you just pretty much have to know somebody.
It's good to know, because as long as I've known you, you've wanted to do this, and we said it on air. I remember you telling me when you were in my class that this is what you want to do, and I'm just this is so cool that I get to see you actually going out and doing it, because so many people change lanes and go do other things, and that's fine. But to see somebody go, I have this dream, I want to go do this thing, and then go do it, is just, it's awesome. It's the best part of my job anyway.
Thank you.
If we can branch off of that, this isn't on the run sheet, but I have to ask. So Tessa, you knew Brad in 2016, 2017, give or take. What was he like back then as a teacher? Granted, I knew him.
I have connection issues. I'm sorry. I have to.
I knew the man, but that was before we really became homies, and obviously you knew him in a very different context than I did. What was this guy like all those years ago?
I respectfully a little bit of a nerd.
A little bit.
He's our nerd. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a nerd. Still is. I wouldn't say, like, just with talking to you these past couple of minutes, not much has changed. He's always been a little bit more like outspoken, shares his opinion, and I always appreciated that as him being my teacher growing up. So yeah,
me too.
Not much has changed.
never changed, Brad.
No, man, you get what you see. Like I'm me here as I am in the classroom. I don't put on a show. It's just, I just go in there and try to be me. It's one of the things that I think is sometimes gets lost is trying to find the balance between what's a little bit like an acting job. Because I talked to another teacher at our a school. I don't want to say the department, because there's they're an island of one. So, but they told me they have to go in there and play the character of that teacher, and then they go home and then they're their authentic selves. But I always think, like, just do that all the time, unless you're some kind of horrible person, which this is not that. And I don't know, just be authentic. It's so simple. Be kind to people, be authentic. The end.
Yeah, period. Words to live by. Well, Tessa, we started the show as a wrestling only space. Not too long after we dropped our first few episodes, we realized that this space is so much more about storytelling, or at least it should be in its various forms, whether that's wrestling, entertainment, and so on. So word on the street is that you memorized the lines for every Shrek film back in the day.
My God.
Which I'm not mad at, by the way. Like, I love, yeah, we did our research, Tessa, especially me who's meeting you for the first time. It was a must. So my question, thank you for confirming. My question is, when did your love of stories begin? And aside from Shrek, were there any other works that have influenced your career path into entertainment?
I knew at a very young age that working in the film industry was something I wanted to do. And when I was younger, I always wanted to do acting. And as I got older and I got to see the behind the scenes and everything that went on and all the people that it takes to make a film or a TV show, I kind of fell more in love with that aspect of it. As far as, oh man, anything else that has influenced besides
we know Shrek's at the top of the list, but are there others?
Yeah.
At any point in your career, did you think those words specifically were ever going to be strung together that way?
No.
And delivered to you? Okay, I just wanted to know. All right.
No. Nothing that I can think of at the moment. I know certain people who I have met have influenced my life and wanting to stay in this industry, but not anything specific as far as another movie I can think of.
It's such a great question. I
I
mean,
loved
it's such a-
discovering that. I love that term as well.
Thanks.
Are there any? I have to ask another follow-up question about high school
Okay.
here. Are there any teachers besides myself, because I know I'm up there, top 12 for sure, that influenced your decision to go into the industry or encouraged you in a way to go into the industry or anything? And this can go all the way back into the way back. Like I know you were
Mhm.
thinking about this at a young age. Is there an elementary teacher, middle school teacher that was like, hey, you should go do this? I think you should do this.
I had a middle school teacher, and I'm actually blanking on his name right now. But he definitely, like, when I shared with him when I was in his class that I wanted to pursue like more acting or stuff, that he was like, "Oh, absolutely do it." He's like, "Send me a friend request on Facebook when you make it." Like,
That's awesome.
Get
now I
outta
can't
here.
remember his name.
No,
So
you can't remember his
Oh,
name.
now
Yeah.
if they're listening to this, and
yeah, hopefully
they
not.
should send, they should send
Like,
that
oh
they should send
no.
that friend request now that you've made it.
That's hilarious.
Thank you.
Well, Tessa, what is the best way for us to follow you and your work?
My IMDb gets updated a lot. Other than that, I've been kind of told by friends that when I go to work, I ghost on my social media. So that's probably the best place to just follow what I'm working on.
Well, it's not a bad thing to be committed to your work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
And
at all.
I can't talk about it. So like, what am I going to post? Like,
Yeah, it's also a valid point. Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that I can't post grades. So
Yeah.
The parallels we're
yeah.
making here
Yeah.
is
It's basically the same thing. Yes.
Okay.
it's tremendous. Well, Tessa, thank you so much for joining us. This was super fun. You can follow us on X at GIPod19, gimmickinfringementpod.com. We thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again for the next edition of GI.
Of
Gimmick
course. Thank
Infringement
you
is a
guys
part
for
of...
having me.
Oh,
course.
yeah, Tessa, it's our pleasure. Thank you. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.